"Daddy, is she dead? Or just cold?" Lily Coleman whispered from the back seat, her small face pressed against the fogged window as the red numbers on the dashboard blinked 2:07 a.m. "Before we go any further, tell me, where in the world are you watching this video from? And what time is it where you are right now?" Because in Atlanta, Georgia, on that February night, the city felt like it had forgotten how to breathe. The office towers downtown stood dark and glassy against the sky, their upper floors empty, their lobby lights glowing for nobody. A hard wind moved through the parking deck beneath Whitmore Plaza, carrying the smell of rain, gasoline, and cold concrete. Darius Coleman had worked the overnight security shift there for almost 3 years, long enough to know which cars belonged to executives, which cameras had blind spots, and which corners became dangerous after midnight. He was 39, broad-shouldered, quiet, wearing a navy work jacket with his name stitched over the pocket. In the front cup holder sat a carton of chocolate milk he had bought for Lily after picking her up from Mrs. Evelyn's apartment across town. She had fallen asleep during the drive, still wearing her purple school hoodie, but woke when Darius slowed near the far end of Level C. That was where he saw the Mercedes. It sat crooked across 2 spaces beneath a flickering light, its engine off, one rear tire resting against the painted line like whoever parked it had stopped trying halfway through. At first, Darius thought it was another executive who had left in a hurry. Then he saw the woman inside. Her head rested against the steering wheel. Her blonde hair had slipped from a neat bun. One hand lay open in her lap, pale from the cold, still wearing a wedding ring that looked wrong somehow, as if one small stone had been removed from the setting. Darius parked 20 feet away and kept the headlights on low. He did not rush toward the car. A man raising a little girl alone learned early that good intentions were not enough. You had to make sure the truth had witnesses. He checked the time, looked toward the nearest camera, then reached for his radio. "Level C, northwest corner," he said calmly. "Possible medical concern. I'm checking on a parked vehicle." Lily leaned forward, her voice smaller now. "Daddy, should we call somebody?" "We will," Darius said. "But first I need to see if she can hear me." He stepped out into the cold and walked slowly, both hands visible, boots echoing on the concrete. When he reached the driver's side, he recognized her from the framed photograph in the main lobby. Claire Whitmore, CEO of Whitmore Urban Development, the woman whose name was carved into the building above his head. In the picture downstairs, she looked untouchable. Here, behind a window filmed with frost, she looked like someone the world had locked outside. Darius tapped the glass lightly with 2 knuckles. "Ma'am," he said, voice low and steady. "Can you hear me?" She did not move. He tapped again, a little firmer. Her eyes opened halfway, unfocused and frightened, as if she had awakened somewhere she did not remember choosing. She turned her head, saw him, then saw the badge on his jacket. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Darius held up his empty hand. "You're safe," he said. "My name is Darius. I work security here. I'm not going to open this door unless you want me to." For a moment, Claire Whitmore only stared at him through the glass. Then, with shaking fingers, she unlocked the car. The lock clicked softly, but Claire did not push the door open right away. She sat there with one hand on the handle and the other pressed against her coat, as if she were holding herself together by force. Darius took one step back, giving her space. That small movement seemed to matter to her. Slowly, she opened the door, and a wave of cold air came out of the car with her. "I am not drunk," she said, her voice rough and thin. "I did not think you were," Darius answered. Claire looked past him toward the empty rows of parked cars, then up at the concrete ceiling where the security camera blinked red. Her eyes sharpened with embarrassment. Even freezing and exhausted, she still had the instinct of a woman used to being watched. "Please do not call the lobby," she said. "Please." Darius studied her face. He had seen fear before, but this was different. This was not fear of the dark parking deck or of a stranger in a uniform. This was the fear of someone who knew that one wrong phone call could become tomorrow morning's story. "Are you hurt?" he asked. Claire shook her head too quickly, then stopped because the motion made her dizzy. "No, I just needed a few minutes." Darius glanced at the dashboard. The temperature outside was 34 degrees. The car had been off long enough for the windows to frost. "Ma'am, a few minutes in this cold can turn into something worse." Claire gave a tired laugh with no humor in it. "Worse already happened. 6 hours earlier, She had walked out of the Fulton County Courthouse with cameras waiting on the sidewalk and her former husband standing beside her like a man posing for a charity photograph. Evan Whitmore had worn a charcoal overcoat, a silver tie, and the gentle expression he saved for reporters. He had told them the divorce was painful but respectful, that he wished Claire healing, that he hoped the company could remain stable during this private transition. Claire had stood there with her chin lifted, refusing to let the city see her tremble. Then her phone began to die. First, her corporate email locked her out. Then her bank app rejected her password. Her driver texted that he had been reassigned. By 8 o'clock, the doorman at her penthouse looked at her with pity and said the access code had been changed by court-authorized instruction. By 9:30, her personal assistant stopped answering. By 11, Claire understood that Evan had not simply ended their marriage. He had built a cage around the life she used to own. She drove to Whitmore Plaza because the documents she needed were inside her private office on the 42nd floor. If she could reach the old files, the board would see what Evan and Martin Hale had been doing behind polished conference room doors. But the guard at the executive entrance was new, nervous, and already waiting for her. He never raised his voice. That almost made it worse. "I am sorry, Miss Whitmore," he had said, refusing to meet her eyes. "Your building access has been temporarily suspended pending board review." Her building, her father's land, her mother's name hidden in the first trust papers, her life reduced to a badge that no longer beeped green. Now, in the parking deck beneath all of it, Claire looked at Darius Coleman as if he were the last person on earth who had not been given instructions about what to think of her. "I did not know where else to go," she whispered. Claire looked down before she said it, almost ashamed of the sentence, as if having nowhere to go was a failure she should have been smart enough to avoid. Darius did not answer right away. He turned his head toward his own car, where Lily watched from behind the glass with both hands folded beneath her chin. Then he looked back at Claire, careful not to stare too long at the woman the newspapers always described as unstoppable. "You can sit in my vehicle for a few minutes while I call someone safe for you," he said. "A family member, a friend, a lawyer. Your choice." Claire's face tightened at each word. Family, friend, lawyer. 3 doors that had already closed. "There is no one I can call who will not turn this into evidence by sunrise," she said. Darius understood more from what she did not say than what she did. Powerful people did not always have more help. Sometimes they had more witnesses waiting to sell the story. He took off his work jacket and held it out, not stepping closer until she nodded. "Then at least put this over your shoulders." Claire accepted it with both hands. The jacket was too large, warm from his body, and smelled faintly of laundry soap and coffee. Her eyes watered, but she looked away quickly, fighting the humiliation harder than the cold. Above them, on the 42nd floor, one narrow strip of light still burned inside Whitmore Plaza. Claire followed Darius's glance and went very still. "That is Martin's office," she whispered. "Martin Hale?" Darius asked. He knew the name. Everyone who worked nights knew which executives stayed late and which ones only left lights on to make themselves look important. Martin Hale was the chief financial officer, the kind of man who nodded at workers without ever actually seeing them. Claire's jaw tightened. "He told me he was flying to Dallas tonight." At that exact moment, inside the building, Martin Hale stood beside Evan Whitmore near the long conference table in the finance suite. On the wall screen was a paused security image of Claire's Mercedes entering the parking deck. Evan did not look angry. He looked satisfied in the polished, quiet way that made people trust him until it was too late. "By morning," Martin said, "the board will hear that she spent the night unstable, locked out, sleeping in her vehicle, refusing assistance." Evan adjusted his cuff link. "Not refusing assistance. Hiding from it. That sounds worse." Martin gave a small nod. "And if someone finds her?" Evan looked toward the screen, where the image was grainy but clear enough to show Darius walking across the concrete. Even better, a recently divorced chief executive officer in a parking garage at 2 in the morning with an overnight security guard. People will not need proof. They will create the rest themselves. Down on level C, Darius felt the uneasiness before he had words for it. The red camera light blinked above them, steady and patient. He had spent years being invisible in this building, but he had never trusted invisible men with expensive shoes who moved through back doors after midnight. Claire shivered inside his jacket. "I need those files upstairs," she said. "If I do not get them, Tomorrow they will say I am unfit to run the company my father built. Darius looked from her to the camera, then to Lily, who was still watching him as if every choice he made would become part of what she believed goodness meant. Miss Whitmore, he said quietly, before we go anywhere, we are going to make sure the truth has a witness. The word witness changed the air between them. Claire blinked at Darius as if she had expected suspicion, pity, or fear, but not carefulness. He did not reach for her arm. He did not tell her to hurry. He simply walked back to his car, opened the rear door, and spoke softly to Lily. Sweetheart, I need you to call Mrs. Evelyn from my phone. Tell her we are at Whitmore Plaza and I need her to stay on the line. Lily nodded with the seriousness of a child who had learned too. Early that grown-up trouble sometimes arrived quietly. Darius handed her the phone, then returned to Claire. My neighbor is 72. Retired nurse. She watched my daughter tonight. She is the kind of woman who remembers every word people say and every minute they say it. Claire pulled his jacket tighter around her shoulders. You think I need a witness against you? No, ma'am, Darius said. I think we both need one against whatever is already happening above us. That answer settled over Claire more deeply than comfort would have. Comfort could be false. This was protection with clean hands. A moment later, Lily lowered the window a few inches and held out the phone on speaker. Mrs. Evelyn Brooks came through with sleep still in her voice and steel underneath it. Darius Coleman, tell me why my phone is ringing at 2 in the morning. Mrs. Evelyn, I found a woman in the parking deck. She is cold, alert, and asking not to involve building staff yet. Her name is Claire Whitmore. The line went silent for half a breath. Whitmore, Mrs. Evelyn said, and something in her tone made Claire look up. Yes, ma'am. Keep that line open, Mrs. Evelyn said. And do not let anyone make you look like something you are not. Darius looked toward the camera again. That is the plan. Claire heard the words and felt a strange ache behind her ribs. All evening, men with titles had spoken around her, over her, about her. This parking lot guard, whose name she had never known though he worked beneath her building, was the first person who had spoken as if her safety and his dignity mattered at the same time. I have a key card, she said, reaching into her coat pocket with trembling fingers. It will not open the executive floor anymore, but it might still open the service elevator. Darius shook his head. If your access was suspended, using that elevator could give them exactly what they want. Trespassing, erratic behavior, breaking protocol. Claire swallowed, because he was right. She hated that he was right. Then I lose everything. Maybe, Darius said. Or maybe we start with what they cannot twist. He pointed toward the small black dome camera near the ramp. That camera caught you entering alone. The one by the executive door caught whoever turned you away. The lobby cameras will show whether anyone offered help. And if Mr. Hale is upstairs after saying he left town, the freight elevator log will know. Claire stared at him. How do you know all that? Darius gave a faint, tired smile. People look past the man in the security jacket. That does not mean the man is not paying attention. From inside the car, Lily's voice floated out gently. Daddy always notices when people pretend not to see things. Claire turned toward the little girl, and for the first time that night, her face softened. Before she could answer, tires echoed from the lower ramp. A black company sedan rolled slowly into level C, its headlights washing across the concrete. Darius stepped aside, calm but alert. Claire's shoulders stiffened. She knew that car. It belonged to Evan. The sedan stopped 15 feet away, close enough for its headlights to turn Claire's face pale and bright, like she had been caught in the center of a stage she never agreed to stand on. Darius did not move toward the car. He stayed where the camera could see him, both hands at his sides, his body angled slightly away from Claire so no one could claim he had cornered her. The driver's door opened first. Evan Whitmore stepped out wearing the same charcoal overcoat he had worn outside the courthouse. Not a wrinkle on it. Not a sign that the hour or the cold had touched him. Martin Hale climbed out on the passenger side, holding a leather folder against his chest. He looked at Darius for less than a second, the way some people glance at a chair in their path. Then his eyes settled on Claire wrapped in the oversized security jacket. Evan sighed, soft and practiced. Claire, he said. Thank God. We have been worried sick. Claire's hand tightened around the edge of the jacket. Darius heard Mrs. Evelyn breathing quietly through the phone in Lily's hand. You locked me out, Claire said. Evan tilted his head with gentle disappointment. No one locked you out. The board agreed to pause your access until you had time to rest. After today, everyone understood you might not be thinking clearly. Martin opened the folder just enough for the top sheet to show. We came to help avoid a public situation. His voice was smooth, corporate, clean of fingerprints. The guard at the executive entrance reported that you appeared distressed. Now we find you here, after 2 in the morning, with an employee. He finally looked at Darius. Mr. Coleman, is it? Darius did not answer the insult hidden inside the question. That is my name. Evan gave him a sympathetic smile that did not reach his eyes. I appreciate you trying to assist my former wife. But this is a delicate family and corporate matter. You can return to your post now. Claire turned toward Darius, panic flashing across her face before she could hide it. She was not asking him to save her. That was what hurt most. She looked like someone who had learned not to ask. From the back seat, Lily held the phone in both hands and whispered, Mrs. Evelyn, can you hear them? Mrs. Evelyn's voice came through clear and steady. Every word, baby. Evan's smile faded a fraction. Who was on that phone? Darius answered before Claire could. A witness. Martin's eyes narrowed. A witness to what? To the fact that Miss Whitmore was found alone in a cold vehicle, that she stated she had nowhere safe to go, and that 2 men arrived attempting to remove her before medical help, legal counsel, or an independent party could be contacted. Evan's face stayed calm, but something behind it shifted. You are involving yourself in matters you do not understand. Darius nodded once. I understand a woman was sleeping in a car at 34 degrees while men upstairs discussed how it would look in the morning. Claire looked at him sharply. Martin's hand tightened around the folder. Evan turned his gaze toward the red camera light above them, then back to Darius. For the first time, he seemed to realize the parking lot man knew where every eye in the building was watching. You should be careful, Evan said quietly. I am, Darius replied. That is why I am not letting her leave with anyone until she says, clearly, that she wants to. The silence that followed was so complete that even the building seemed to listen. Claire drew in a shaky breath. Then, with Darius's jacket around her shoulders and her voice still fragile, but finally her own, she said, I do not want to go with you, Evan. Claire's words did not come out loudly, but they changed everything in the parking deck. Evan stood motionless for a moment, his polished expression holding together like thin ice over dark water. Martin looked down at his folder, then at the camera, then at Darius, as if calculating which version of the truth would survive the morning. Claire, Evan said gently, you are exhausted. You do not mean that. She pulled Darius's jacket closer, not because she was cold now, but because it had become the first thing all night that did not belong to someone trying to control her. I meant it when I said it in court. I mean it now. Evan's voice softened even more, which somehow made it colder. You are standing in a parking garage at 2 in the morning, wrapped in another man's jacket, refusing help from people who know you. Think about how that will sound. Darius felt Lily watching from the car. He felt Mrs. Evelyn listening through the phone. He knew the shape of this trap because men like Evan did not need to shout. They only needed to make a decent person look questionable and a frightened woman look unstable. Mr. Whitmore, Darius said. She already answered. Martin stepped forward half a pace, careful and annoyed. You are an overnight security employee. You are interfering with executive governance. No, sir, Darius replied. I am following safety procedure. An adult woman in distress has declined to leave with you. Until she requests otherwise, I am documenting the encounter and contacting an independent party. Martin's mouth tightened. Your employment can be reviewed. Darius looked at him for a long second. He thought of rent due on Friday, Lily's asthma medicine in the kitchen cabinet, the winter coat she needed before the next cold snap. He thought of how easily men in suits could turn one paycheck into a leash. Then he thought of Lily's question. If Mommy was cold, would someone help her? That may be true, he said quietly. But my daughter is sitting 10 feet away learning what a man does when doing right costs him something. From the phone, Mrs. Evelyn's voice came through, low and clear. And I heard that too. Claire's eyes filled, but she did not cry. Not here. Not for Evan. She reached into the Mercedes and took out a small black purse, then looked at Darius. Is there somewhere I can make a call without them listening? Yes, ma'am, Darius said. My vehicle is warm. My daughter is inside, and Mrs. Evelyn is on speaker. You can call your attorney from there. Evan's head turned sharply. Claire, That would be a mistake. She looked at him then, really looked at him, as if seeing not the man she married, but the man who had counted on her silence. The mistake was believing you were protecting me. She walked toward Darius's car, each step slow but steady. Darius stayed several feet away, giving her room, keeping his hands visible, letting the cameras record exactly what happened. Lily unlocked the door from inside. Claire slid into the front passenger seat, and warm air from the vents touched her face. Lily held out the phone with both hands. Mrs. Evelyn says you should call somebody who does not work for him. For the first time that night, Claire almost smiled. That sounds like very good advice. Behind them, Evan and Martin remained under the flickering light, their careful plan no longer clean. Darius stood between the sedan and his car, not as a hero asking for praise, but as a father who understood that dignity sometimes meant becoming a wall until someone weak enough to be targeted felt strong enough to speak. Claire's attorney answered on the fourth ring, and the sound of his tired voice seemed to pull her back into the world of names, dates, signatures, and consequences. His name was Arthur Bell, a 70-year-old corporate lawyer who had worked with her father long before Claire had ever sat at the head of a boardroom table. "Claire," he said, suddenly awake. "Where are you?" She looked through the windshield at Evan's sedan, at Martin's folder, at Darius standing beneath the flickering light. "In the parking deck under Whitmore Plaza," she said. "My access was suspended. Evan and Martin are here. They tried to take me with them." Arthur was silent for 2 seconds. "Do not leave with either of them. Put me on speaker." Lily held the phone carefully between both hands as Claire did what he asked. Arthur's voice filled the car, calm and sharp. "Mr. Whitmore. Mr. Hale. This is Arthur Bell. Any further attempt to move Miss Whitmore without her written consent will be documented as coercive conduct. I am also requesting preservation of all security footage from 6 o'clock this evening forward." Martin's expression changed. It was small, but Darius saw it. Men like Martin were not afraid of emotion. They were afraid of records. "This is inappropriate," Martin said. "You are speaking through a child's telephone in a parking garage." "And yet," Arthur replied, "it appears to be the cleanest channel available." From the phone still open to Mrs. Evelyn, a soft sound came through, almost like a breath catching. Claire turned toward Lily's phone. "Mrs. Brooks." The older woman did not answer at first. Then her voice trembled with recognition. "What was your mother's name, child?" Claire froze. No one had called her child in years. "Margaret Whitmore," she said carefully. "Margaret Elaine Whitmore." Mrs. Evelyn went quiet so long that Lily whispered, "Mrs. Evelyn?" When she spoke again, her voice was no longer sleepy. It was full of 20 years returning all at once. "I was with your mother the last spring before she passed. I worked private nursing after I left Grady Hospital. She gave me something and made me promise not to hand it over unless I believed her daughter was in danger of losing herself to that family." Claire's hand rose to her mouth. "That is not possible." "It is possible," Mrs. Evelyn said. "I have the envelope in my sewing drawer. Your mother wrote your name on it herself." Evan stepped closer, his calm finally cracking around the edges. "Claire, you cannot seriously believe some woman on a phone at this hour." Darius turned his head toward him. "Careful." It was only one word, spoken quietly, but it stopped Evan mid-sentence because it carried no threat, only warning. Claire heard it too, and something inside her steadied. Arthur's voice cut through the silence. "Mrs. Brooks, can you bring that envelope to Whitmore Plaza?" "I can," she said, "but I do not drive at night anymore." Darius looked at Lily in the car, then at Claire. He had already lost the safety of staying uninvolved. Now the choice was only whether he would finish what decency had started. "Lily," he said, "seat belt." Evan gave a bitter laugh. "You are taking her word over mine?" Claire looked at him through the windshield, no longer shaking. "No, Evan. I am finally taking everyone's word over yours." Darius did not drive fast. He drove like a man carrying the truth in the back seat, with Lily buckled beside Claire and Arthur Bell still on speaker, listening to every turn of the road. Behind them, Evan's sedan followed at a distance, its headlights sliding across the rearview mirror like a warning that had not yet learned it was too late. Claire sat rigid in the passenger seat, Darius's jacket still around her shoulders, both hands clasped so tightly in her lap that her knuckles had gone white. She had spent years walking into boardrooms where men measured weakness by the tremor in a woman's voice. Now she was trying to breathe through the simple terror of hope. "Mrs. Evelyn lives 3 miles from here," Darius said. "We will be there in 6 minutes." Claire nodded without looking at him. "Why are you doing this?" The question came out quietly, almost unwillingly. Darius kept his eyes on the road. "Because my daughter asked what I would want someone to do if her mother was cold." Lily looked down at her sneakers. Claire turned toward the window before either of them could see what that answer did to her. Mrs. Evelyn was waiting outside her apartment building in a long brown coat, a scarf tied under her chin, and a metal cane in one hand. In the other, she held a faded cream envelope protected inside a clear plastic freezer bag. Darius pulled to the curb and got out first. Evan's sedan stopped half a block behind them, but neither Evan nor Martin stepped out. Mrs. Evelyn looked past Darius at the car, then at Claire. The older woman's face softened with something deeper than pity. "You have your mother's eyes," she said. Claire stepped onto the sidewalk as if the ground had shifted beneath her. "You knew her?" Mrs. Evelyn held out the envelope. "I knew the woman she was when no cameras were watching." Claire took it with shaking hands. Across the front, in blue ink faded by time, was her full name, Claire Margaret Whitmore. Beneath it were 6 words that made her stop breathing for a moment. "If he makes her doubt herself." Arthur's voice came through the phone. "Claire, do not open it on the sidewalk. We go somewhere recorded, witnessed, and formal." Darius looked toward Whitmore Plaza rising in the distance. "The main lobby has cameras, time-stamped entry, and a security desk." Claire lifted her chin. "Then we go there." When they returned to the building, the lobby guard looked startled enough to stand too quickly. Evan and Martin entered behind them, trying to reclaim the room with posture and expensive coats, but the space no longer belonged to their version of the night. Arthur Bell arrived by taxi 10 minutes later, gray-haired, carrying a briefcase, and looking like a man who had waited years to say the words he said next. "Preserve all footage. No one leaves with documents. And no one speaks for Miss Whitmore except Miss Whitmore." In the glass-walled conference room off the lobby, Claire opened the envelope. Inside was a letter from her mother, written during the final months of her illness, and a small brass key taped to the page. The letter did not accuse wildly. It did something stronger. It named dates, trust amendments, hidden voting shares, and a private safe deposit box Evan had never known existed. It said Martin Hale had been recommended by Evan's family, not by Claire's father. It said Claire's mother feared her daughter would one day be surrounded by polite people who benefited from making her feel unstable. Claire read until her voice broke, then continued anyway. Arthur placed the brass key beside his phone and began making calls. Darius stood near the door with Lily close to his side. He did not need to be at the table to understand that the room had changed. Evan's calm finally deserted him. "This is sentimental nonsense," he said. Arthur looked up. "No, Mr. Whitmore. Sentiment does not usually come with account numbers." By 4:15 in the morning, the lobby screens showed the footage. Claire denied entry to her own office, Martin entering the freight elevator after claiming to be in Dallas, Evan arriving only after Darius radioed the medical concern, and Darius keeping distance, witnesses, and procedure at every step. The truth did not shout. It simply played back, minute by minute, until there was nowhere left for the lie to stand. By sunrise, Whitmore Plaza no longer felt like the same building. The glass walls that had watched Claire be locked out now reflected her standing upright in the lobby, her hair still loose, Darius's jacket still over her shoulders, but her voice calm enough to carry across marble. Arthur Bell had already contacted the board's independent counsel. The safe deposit records named in her mother's letter were confirmed within the hour. The hidden voting shares placed Claire beyond Evan's reach, and the security footage made Martin Hale's explanations collapse before he could finish them. No one dragged anyone out. No one needed shouting. Evan was escorted to a side office to wait for his attorney, his polished face emptied of certainty. Martin was suspended pending investigation, his badge deactivated by the same system he had tried to use against Claire. Claire watched it happen without smiling. Revenge would have been easy to imagine in that moment, but it did not fit the woman she wanted to become. She only said, "Make sure every employee they threatened is protected." Then she turned toward Darius, who stood near the lobby doors with Lily leaning against his side, sleepy and wrapped in her purple hoodie. "Mr. Coleman," Claire said, and for the first time in years, everyone in the lobby listened when she spoke to a man in a security jacket. Darius straightened. "Yes, ma'am." Claire looked down at the jacket on her shoulders. then carefully took it off and handed it back with both hands. You gave me warmth when my own building gave me a locked door. Darius accepted it quietly. My daughter was watching. Lily looked up at Claire. Are you going to be okay now? The question softened something in the room that all the legal words could not touch. Claire knelt, not caring who saw the chief executive officer of Whitmore Urban Development on the lobby floor at dawn. I think I am going to learn how to be okay, she said. And I think your father reminded me where to start. 3 months later, level C of the parking deck had changed. The broken light was gone. The cameras had been updated. A small heated room sat beside the security office with a sign that read Safe Rest Area, open to overnight staff, stranded employees, and anyone waiting for verified assistance. Claire created an emergency fund for single parents working late shifts, not as charity for photographs, but as policy with names, numbers, and accountability. She offered Darius a corporate security director position twice. Twice, he refused the title as written. He finally accepted a different role, community safety manager, with hours that let him take Lily to school and Sundays fully protected. Mrs. Evelyn became the unofficial heart of the new program, sitting on the advisory board with a notebook full of sharper questions than any consultant dared ask. Evan and Martin faced the consequences through courts, contracts, and public record. Claire did not speak of them often. She had learned that healing did not require keeping pain at the center of the room. On the first warm evening of spring, Darius and Lily walked past Whitmore Plaza after dinner. Claire was outside near the entrance, holding a folder instead of hiding behind one. Lily waved first. Claire waved back, then looked at Darius with quiet gratitude that had grown into respect, not dependence. No more sleeping in cars? Lily asked. Claire smiled, her eyes shining but steady. No, sweetheart. Not for me. And if we can help it, not for anyone who comes through these doors. Lily slipped her hand into her father's. Daddy says people should not have to prove they matter before somebody helps them. Claire looked at Darius then, and the city noise seemed to fade around them. Your daddy is right. Darius did not answer with a speech. He only squeezed Lily's hand, watching the lights come on in a building that had once left a woman alone in the cold, and now, because a child asked one honest question and her father chose dignity over fear, had become a place where people were seen before they had to beg to be noticed.